throw this to Judd.
Yeah.
Because they ran the Minneapolis Miracle game last night on Fox Sports 1.
Mhm.
Pose your question.
All right. 2 questions, but I'll pose question 1. It's probably the most important one. Minneapolis Miracle. 17-0. A 13-3 Vikings team at home held a lead on the Saints. Rami Makloff and Phil Mackey. At halftime of that game, it had the potential to be the reverse of, thank you, Jonathan Harrison, the reverse of the 41 donut loss.
I don't hear it, Jonathan. There we go.
Good?
Yeah.
So this was good. This was a Viking rout. The first quarter, the Vikings were beyond dominant, great defense, all right? The Vikings subsequently blew that lead and trailed late in that game a couple of times before Stephon Diggs catches the ball. The Saints safety, we still don't know why, tries to make an immediate hit on Diggs, and Diggs scores. And yes, there's jubilation. It's very cool. It was lots of fun. Anyway, my question to both of you is this. If the Will Lutz field goal wins that game, and let's say Stephon Diggs is either tackled inbounds or Forbath misses a field goal to end that game, what do the Vikings look like today? And I've got thoughts, but I want to start with you guys. What do the Vikings look like today after blowing a 17-0 lead and going one and done in a 13-3 season?
So I think there's a good chance, and there were some rumblings about this 2 years ago. I think there's a good chance if the season ends with them blowing a 17-point lead at home in the first round of the playoffs or the second round of the playoffs, I think there's a chance Mike Zimmer gets fired. So I think the biggest thing that could have happened was Mike Zimmer gets fired. Although he did just coach the best defense in the NFL, so I wouldn't put it at like a 75% chance, but I think there's a chance.
He gets fired after that game?
Yeah.
Really?
I'm saying non-zero chance.
I mean, that was what, his third year?
Fourth year. It was his fourth year. Yep,
Oh,
it
yeah,
was
that's
fourth
right.
year.
Okay.
And there was like the year before, there was some tumultuous stuff, and it was a little bit shaky. But I actually think if he doesn't get fired, thank you, baseball ambience, I actually think they still proceed with moving on from Case Keenum and signing Kirk Cousins. I don't think the outcome of that game changes anything for their quarterback situation, which is the most important thing that, can be determined for a team. So if they blow that lead and Stephon Diggs doesn't score that miracle touchdown, I think Kirk Cousins is still signed to be the starting quarterback a month later.
Yeah, I don't think that changes the quarterback situation at all. I don't think it changes it one bit. How much do you think it changes things with Stephon Diggs? Does it change anything about Stephon Diggs and his stature and Vikings lore, or as a Vikings wide receiver?
I think it does, because if they lose that game, Zimmer and Spielman are not fired. They still go get Cousins almost certainly. But I'm leaving everything else, gentlemen, the exact same, which means they go 8-7-1 and miss the playoffs in 2018, and both of them, or at least the head coach, are fired. And then they would have gone out and hired an offensive coach almost certainly for this past season.
Oh, wow.
To replace Zimmer.
Oh, wow. This is a whole nother
And an offensive coach is going to look at Stephon Diggs and say, I have been blessed with a top 10 wide receiver. Stephon Diggs is getting the football from Kirk Cousins no matter what. So I think Zimmer gets fired after 2018 because you then whiff on the playoffs.
So you think that getting to the NFC Championship game bought Zimmer enough leeway to have a mediocre season in 2018, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So you're saying the difference between getting to the NFC Championship game and not actually saved Mike Zimmer's job after the following season?
Absolutely.
I can buy that. And if they do bring in a more offensive-minded coach, you're right. Stephon Diggs probably doesn't – Stephon Diggs gets targeted 40 more times last year.
Another strike out there.
And he's not – that's – is this, by the way, is this the same ambient game that we heard yesterday?
I mean, why would we change?
Okay, I'm just wondering.
Successful the first time.
And how many of these do you think are out there for Jonathan to find?
Actually, are there any ones from Japan or Korea?
Let me see.
Or the World Baseball Classic?
Just nothing with vuvuzelas.
I need some vuvuzelas.
No, nothing with vuvuzelas.
Oh, I'm finding vuvuzelas.
I'm out. Some cowbell.
See you guys later.
Can you find one with cowbell?
No I'm quarantining at home. Bye.
Cowbell used sparingly.
No.
I got into a fight with the Oakland A's Twitter account about the cowbell in their stadium.
You get into more fights with Twitter accounts than anyone I know. You really do.
So, all right, so
just AL West teams, it seems.
So if we take Judd's theory to the next level, okay, let me then pull up a list of coaches that were hired after the 2018 season. So coaches that were rookie coaches last year, okay? Because this would have, I'm just going to give you all of them. This would have been the list, right? If your theory is right, that the rope would have been shorter, Mike Zimmer would have lost his job after the 2018 season, then these are the coaches that they would have been choosing from, in theory. Bruce Arians got hired to be the Bucs coach last year. Adam Gase,
I'm gonna write these down.
with that wildly uncomfortable press conference where his eyes were darting in 60 different places. He was chasing the red dot, chasing the taco. Brian Flores became the Dolphins head coach.
Okay.
Matt LaFleur became the Packers head coach.
Yep.
Vic Fangio left whatever Italian restaurant he was working at to become the Denver Broncos coach.
Bears guide from defense, so no. Okay.
Zach Taylor became the Bengals coach.
Mike Sherman's son-in-law, yep.
One of the youngest coaches in the NFL. And then Cliff Kingsbury left the college ranks to become Arizona Cardinals coach.
Sean McVay's friend.
Which one of those coaches, Judd, play out your theory to the nth degree here. Which one of those coaches would be the Vikings head coach right now if Stefan Diggs doesn't score a touchdown to end the Minneapolis Miracle game?
Is Spielman still GM or no?
I think so.
Okay.
Spielman seems to be like Spielman. I'm not going to say he's got the Terry Ryan treatment from 5 years ago where he's just going to be the general manager as long as he wants. At least that's what the poll ad said at the time.
You know what?
He's got good job security.
You know what? If you're Rick Spielman at that point and you say to yourself, Mike Zimmer's team's flamed up, but we're still competitive, which is what the Wilfs want, right? Bruce Arians, solid quarterbacks coach, solid offensive coach, loads of experience.
I'm a big Bruce Arians guy.
Likable guy. I think he would sort of be
also a
seen,
leader of men, right?
Yes, and I think that he would be perceived not only as the anti-Zim because of his expertise on the offensive side of the ball as opposed to defense, but also an older guy, but not really cantankerous. And Mike is pretty cantankerous. I'm going to say Bruce Arians based on on pressure on Rick to win.
Wow, this is
Rami or Phil, what do you think?
I love it. I love the idea.
Reckless speculation.
wow.
Because Kingsbury, if you think that you can win, you're going to get a college guy. I'm not saying he won't be good eventually, but I think there'd be some trepidation there.
Yeah, and when the Cardinals hired Kingsbury, they were in full-on bottom-out rebuild mode, going to draft their future quarterback, right? When the Vikings emerged from a mediocre but not disaster 2018 season, if they would have made a coaching change, they would have been looking for someone not to start over with, but someone to take a team that had just gone to the NFC Championship game and get them over the hump, right? Let's get back to where we were. And Bruce Arians would have been the likely guy on that list.
I like it.
Boy, that's a fun alternate reality. Bruce Arians is the Vikings head coach.
Can I throw another one at you? Can I get the harps again? Can I get the harp strings for my alternate reality?
Reckless speculation.
This guy didn't get hired in that window, but his name was thrown in the hat for every job that was out there. And this guy took over a similar situation to what you're talking about, Mackie, where it was not a bad team, but it was a team that can't kind of hit the wall, had an old school defensive-minded head coach. They brought this guy in, and he won a Super Bowl. John Gruden.
Wow.
Head coach of your Minnesota Vikings.
Wow.
Whoa.
After the 2018 season.
Whoa.
Huh?
Whew. I feel like
No,
that.
he already had a job.
Did he? No, he wasn't with the Raiders yet, was he? I thought this was his second year, wasn't it? Or was this his third year?
This will be his third year this year. He's been with the Raiders for 2 years.
Okay.
So he got hired
11 and 21.
So then you would have been trying to hire him
Away from the 10-year contract that he signed. Yeah.
Now I think
That is fun, though.
Now
That
I
is
do
fun.
think a Gruden, a guy like
Hold on a second. You just had a big play there.
It's a home run.
Oh, there
it's
it
a home
is.
run.
Wow.
that's the
I
one
wasn't
that
sure if it got over the wall, guys.
Rami was thought was in the gap
Yeah.
yesterday.
Let's literally do this every single day, like Groundhog Day, and react. Let's interrupt every first segment with that same home run.
The home run.
With the foghorn and the fireworks.
So the Gruden thing, if you went down
They love
that
it.
path,
They love it.
I think Spielman would have had to be fired too, because I think
Yeah,
Gruden
Gruden's-
got
yeah.
complete control.
Yeah, he wants to buy
So
the
if
groceries.
they both had got blown out, then that type of hire is very plausible, because I bet the Wilfs would love a guy like Gruden.
Reckless speculation.
That's fun. That's a fun alternate reality. It's a fun
Who's your
alternate-
hire? If you can't have Arians,
I
who's
think
your
exploring alternate realities might be a fun little exercise while we have no actual sports to talk about.
Let's
guys.
add it to the segment
hire? It's
list.
great.
Alternate realities.
Alternate realities. I think it's fantastic.
We'll just, in fact, people should send us, tweet at us, at Phil Mackey, at Jay Zolgad, at Rami is tweeting. Just pick out things that have happened in Minnesota sports the last 30 years, or even just in national sports.
And we'll pretend it didn't happen.
and then we
explore
will
all
tell
the
you
different
what
possibilities.
would have happened.
I
All
love
right.
it.
And then we'll float it to Mike Greenberg, and it'll become a segment on Get Up here pretty soon.
You know, it's not a bad. It's not a
100%.
bad idea. Like this is a pretty good idea.
It's a really good idea.
Alternate
guys. We just stumbled
Realities
out
for
to
Minnesota
something here.
sports.